Welcome back inside the Now Morning Show. Now, for the rest of the morning, we're talking about balancing fatherhood and your professional career, whatever that career may be. Our first guest inside this last couple segments here is a football analyst. He's a broadcaster, a former professional footballer, a son of the soil, an advocate, and most importantly, he's a father. Let me welcome to the Now Morning Show. Should I say welcome back, because he's been here a couple of times before, Mr. Shaka Hislop. Good morning to you, sir.
Morning, Rokas. How are you doing today?
Fair to find, man. How are you this morning?
I'm good. I'm doing really well. Really well.
I'm really happy to have you on this morning. Let me ask firstly, from your perspective, what is the role of a father? What role do you see yourself playing as a father?
Well, I'll say I'm fortunate in that I had an incredible father figure in my life. And especially now as a father myself, I recognize, I think the greatest value to it is as an example as to how you live your life, your moral compass, the things that you hold dear, how you how you carry out some of the traditional roles of a father in terms of protecting, providing, and doing so with dignity. As I say, my father epitomized all of those things, and I'm just trying to be half the man, half the father that he was to me.
If you had to give an example of one of the things that your dad taught you that you made sure to pass down to your children, what would that be?
It would be in always believing in yourself and always standing up for yourself, and how to do that. Um, there's a thin line between, I think, arrogance and self-confidence, and having that self-confidence to know who you are, and, accept and understand your position in the world. Just because you're from small islands such as Trinidad and Tobago, that doesn't restrict you in having global impacts. As a matter of fact, I found that embracing my roots, embracing being from Trinidad and Tobago has been my superpower in every single thing that I've done. And I got to understand that through to my father, who, as you know, as you may know, emigrated to England in the late 50s. We graduated law school before moving back to Trinidad, and just kind of him recognizing his own role in a wider world, and this is 1960s Britain. I think laid many of the foundations for some of the things that I've gone on and tried to be in my own life.
Yeah, and you've made great strides. You've been on the international stage almost on a daily basis. How do you manage? I mean, you have 5 children. I have one,
Yeah.
and I find sometimes it's be a struggle to make sure and be as present as I need to be, right? But you have 5. You're on the international television. You've been a professional footballer, and you do so many other things. How do you find that balance?
I think the kids have provided balance to me, more so than me providing balance to them in any aspect of their own life. And I think one of the fortunate things, Rokas, is kids adjust, and we have this idea about who we're supposed to be and how we're supposed to be parents, and kids adjust. So for argument's sake, people always ask, about when I was playing professionally, what was Christmas like? I would have to get up and train every Christmas morning. Sometimes I'd have to travel later on in the evening. Um, while other families were around the tree or enjoying a full day together. But this was just my kids' normal. This is what they knew. They knew Dad had to get up and go to work in the mornings, and sometimes with me here in the evenings for Christmas. And they were totally fine. They're totally fine with that. So I think we have to, certainly as parents, allow our kids to recognize who they are and their strengths, and not try to take away from that, and more to the point, try to add to that. And then as a parent now, you have to be there for them in much the same way that our kids are there for us. And I don't say that lightly, Rokas. I've always tell this story, and people ask about the different periods in my career. And I think the biggest turning point for me, certainly as a professional footballer, and just to put it in totally context, my eldest daughter who was born just after a year after I joined Newcastle. She fell ill about a year later. Not seriously, so I'm not trying to make that the subject. But all of us, she had to spend 4 or 5 days in hospital. As I say, it wasn't overly serious. But all of a sudden, I recognized what was important. So here I was, being a professional footballer and thinking that this was the be all and end all of who I was and all that I wanted to be. And all of a sudden, my daughter fell ill, and my perspective totally changed. I recognized that football was a game. It was not real life. And that for me was pivotal in that I could now take wins and losses on a fairly even keel on the football field. And then, it didn't matter if I played a game and we lost 5-0, my kids I'd come home and my kids would say, how was today, Dad? And I was like, we lost 5-0. Oh, never mind. Come, let's have a tea party. We could win 5-0. I'd come home and they would say, how was today, Dad? I'd be like, oh, we won 5-0. I was like, oh, great. Let's have a tea party. Kids have this way of adding true perspective to your life that I think as parents, we have to do for them as they go through different stages of their own lives.
Tell me a little bit about what that looks like in terms of, you mentioned being there for them, right? And in a career like yours, in any of our jobs that require that demand so much of us, because a lot of people now, like today, it seems like people are more interested in not having that regular 9 to 5. Everybody wants to be an entrepreneur of some sort, right? So we do this thing where we tend to be working for 20 hours of the day. How do you recommend, or what does it look like to be there for your children while still, making sure that you provide for them and that you have the income stream coming in, but you're there for them? What does that look like?
I think you have to give all of yourself in those times that you're with your kids, and congratulations to those people who are trying to be entrepreneurs. I recognize how difficult a job that is. But you all, as an entrepreneur, again, in leading by example, you're saying to your kids, I'm going out and trying to make this of myself. I'm trying to be the best version of who I am. And be sure to provide that example. But then when on those moments, and I accept there are very few and far between when you're an entrepreneur, those moments that you do have away from the job, away from whatever that vocation may be there for your kids as much as you can. I also and recognize that kids have a lot of different milestones in their lives, be it birthdays or school plays or musicals, sports games, or whatever they are. Be present for those, even if it is just to show up for those games, and then go back to who you are. And again, I feel my father's the perfect example in that. Wow, entrepreneur was not a thing back in the 70s and 80s. My dad was a self-employed lawyer, as I mentioned. He went to law school in England, and he was self-employed, so he was responsible for so much in terms of what he earned, how he earned it. But still, my dad was there for me. My dad would drive me to practice. My dad would be there for games when he could. When he couldn't,
creating those memories.
My mother was always there. She was there 100% of the time, and my dad was there when he could. And I recognize that, and I appreciate it. And again, I'm just trying to emulate that.
Speaking of being there, last year you had a little situation, and we know there was a medical nature and all that stuff. Tell me about the support as a father at home and how important that was for you in that period.
Well, I think on a personal level, and maybe I'm being arrogant and saying, as a professional athlete, we kind of feel we have an inbred arrogance in us, and we feel that nothing is beyond us. And for me, it was taking certain things in my health for granted, and even the warning signs and the warning scares previously, taking those for granted. And then I was saved this wake-up call. And then I recognized, and it took some time. I recognized how much it impacted people around me, probably more than I felt it. As much as it was a scare to my own health, I think the kind of helplessness of my loved ones was more jarring than it was to me. So I think I owe it to them as much as I owe it to myself to be more mindful and to take things more seriously. I'm none of us getting any younger, Raucus, and we have to kind of accept that with that comes an additional responsibility to our own selves and to your giveaways, to taking time to pamper ourselves, to make sure we're okay. So I'll be writing and trying to win one of your giveaways.
No problem. Next time you're here, we'll hook you up with Jen Care. Don't worry. But
I'd
Shaka,
love that. I really would.
I think we want to leave it there with that food for thought, because I think that is very important for us men to be able to recognize when we do need to check ourselves and to take care of ourselves. Especially this weekend is a good time to reflect on that, but do it more than just for this weekend. So thank you so much for joining us this morning, Shaka, and happy Father's Day to you.
Thank you, and to you and to all the fathers who continue to play a meaningful role in their lives. I'll just close by saying Father's Day is my favorite day of the year, bar none, because there's nothing I'm more proud of being than a father. So I look forward to this day more than any other on the calendar.
Thank you so much, Shaka. Enjoy the day and enjoy the weekend.
I will. Take care, Raucus.
Take care. Ladies and gentlemen, Shaka Hislop joining us to give us some food for thought when it comes to balancing work and fatherhood. We take a quick break and come back with more conversation about balancing work and fatherhood. Stay tuned.